We joined NATO, not specifically to protect ourselves from any attack on our country. There was no threat to our country. Right now, Iran is at some level performing acts that effectuate limited restrictions and limited flow with respect to that traffic coming through the Strait of Hormuz. Where's NATO when you need them? This is Steve Gibson reporting with respect to the Iran conflict. Please remember to subscribe, like, and follow so that I can be in a position to continue to give this report or these kinds of reports. President Trump has asked our so-called NATO allies to assist with respect to making sure that the Strait of Hormuz is open for international traffic. He didn't ask NATO allies to merely help with the flow of United States-based traffic or Israeli-based traffic. He's asked NATO and other countries to assist with respect to making sure that the Strait of Hormuz, through which much of the Persian Gulf countries transport their oil, approximately 20% of the world's oil that is exported and consumed, can come through the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, Iran is at some level performing acts that effectuate limited restrictions and limited flow with respect to that traffic coming through the Strait of Hormuz. So let's go back into history a little bit. After Europe and Japan was decimated after World War II, Europe decimated by Germany and Japan decimated by their own conduct, the United States, through the Marshall Plan and other mechanisms, basically rebuilt Europe, rebuilt Japan, supported Japan and Europe, and of course assisted China throughout the entire process as well. This was a magnificent level of effort on the part of the United States to basically support the world. We were the only power at the time that had nuclear weapons. We could have, if we wanted to, taken over the world at the time. Instead of taking over the world, we chose a democratic and free approach and helped the rest of the world, including all of our NATO members. We joined NATO, not specifically to protect ourselves from any attack on our country. There was no threat to our country. We joined NATO as a fatherly, paternal figure to protect European countries against communist adventurism. We haven't asked much of NATO. Recently, we asked them to contribute more of their fair share to the defense budget of countries that are in NATO. After decades, they finally agreed to do so for their own good, not to somehow rebate money to the United States, but to basically to attempt to begin to cover their fair share of the burden of their own defense. Again, this is not the defense of the United States that we're talking about. This is the United States basically saying, we have carried the burden for decades. We're talking about 60, 70 years worth of time that we've carried the burden. And now NATO is just coming around to begin to hope to shoulder some of the burden themselves. Now, President Trump has asked them for assistance with respect to not bombing Iran, not dealing with the imminent nuclear threat that Iran posed, but to help with their own traffic, to to not force the United States to be the only country to deal with the closure or attempted closure of the Strait of Hormuz. And what's the response from NATO countries? For the most part, their response is they're not willing to get involved. Well, what does that tell us? The United States and the Trump administration is now well within its rights to say, we are no longer going to be supporting you with respect to your defense. This is a legitimate position that we could take. And let's not forget, the European Union is composed of hundreds of millions of people. It has a gross domestic product that can absolutely support its own defense. It has two countries at a minimum that have nuclear deterrent capabilities. There is absolutely no reason that Germany, the United Kingdom, and France, and Spain, and Italy, by just a few examples, can't maintain a naval presence to assist the United States in dealing with this kind of circumstance that we're facing in the Persian Gulf. Now, the Trump administration should not be faulted for NATO allies and others for not coming to join the effort. The Democratic Party, politicians, and the mainstream media is complaining that, well, Trump should have foreseen that these countries would not help. He should have asked them to help before the conflict started. And he should have foreseen that the Strait of Hormuz was going to be a problem. Well, all of those concepts are both factually in error and just plain wrong. To suggest that the administration did not foresee that the Strait of Hormuz would be a problem is ridiculous. You take out the Air Force first. You take out the air defenses before you take out the Iranian Air Force. You take out their naval capacity. You take out the command and control structure. These are all things that you do first. These are all things that you do in order to allow yourself the ability to combat Iranian action with respect to the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. You don't do it in inverse. We're doing it in exactly the order that was required under the circumstances. We are threatening the oil refining and capacity and flow-through capacity of Karg Island. And that's exactly the kind of maneuver that is appropriate under the circumstances. We are not jeopardizing billions of dollars worth of ships and having them positioned in the Strait of Hormuz without laying the groundwork for having us have the capability to attack the capabilities of Iran with respect to their attempts to close the Strait of Hormuz. These are all fully appropriate steps that we're taking, and the administration is indicating that opening of the Strait of Hormuz through the United States action alone is a viable capacity that we are capable of doing within the near term. Yes, gas prices have gone up for the moment, and frankly, they've gone up to the range of where the Biden administration had them a year ago before the Trump administration started. Those prices will plummet to some of their lowest levels in recent memory once the Strait of Hormuz is open, as the Venezuelan oil continues to flow, as pumping out of U.S. capacities continues. Just imagine when all of that capacity comes online, where those prices are going to be. Is it going to take a couple of weeks? Maybe. A month? Maybe. I would be willing to wager that in 2 months' time, you're going to see some drastic results with respect to oil prices and the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. We cannot have a 24-hour mentality with respect to strategic geopolitical endeavors. There are times that geopolitics takes a little bit of effort and has to have a time horizon that's not merely 24 hours in a TikTok or YouTube environment, which I'm not complaining about since it's the medium through which I'm discussing these issues with you. What I am complaining about is the fact that the mainstream media believes that you need to be on an hour-by-hour perspective rather than a week-by-week perspective. In the history of military endeavors, it is very rare, if not entirely unheard of, that you have a military campaign achieve what it did in the span of 2 weeks. Let's be patient, let's keep things in perspective, and let's remember that NATO is unwilling to help us for their own good.